and a Richmond resident for many years, and we are thrilled to welcome her here today to share with you her experience and perspective as we kick off our first education fair. Ms. Dr. Alleyne, are you with us?
Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I had my tea, so I'm good.
We're ready to go this morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to turn off my video mic and give you the mic. And then if time allows on the back end, we can open up for some questions. But if you use the time, then that is beautiful as well. And so we're going to let you take over.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. I wish I can see you in person, but we are going to have a good time via Zoom today. It is such a privilege and an honor to stand before you, to sit before you today as a daughter, as a mother, a sister, a graduate of one of the most prestigious public universities in the world. I recently also became a chief operating officer of an LLC. I am a fellow West Contra Costa County resident. I'm a taxpayer, educator, a wife. And most importantly, I am a mother of 4 beautiful children. During my 42 years of life, yes, I said my age, I have had a plethora of experiences that have filled me with such pride and joy, but there is no greater moment than the birth of my children. I'm blessed to have 4 uniquely gifted and inspiring children who have transformed me, my priorities, and my perspective of the world in which they navigate. There is no greater joy than to watch my children pursue academic prowess and blossom to reach their God-given potential. As a mother who is raising 1 beautiful Black queen and 3 handsome Black kings in a world that has shown their hatred towards my children, I had to acquire some additional skills. For you see, it required a nuanced and novel approach to advocacy. It was and is my duty to provide these kings and this queen with access to the best educational experience based on their needs and in an educational setting that provides access to high quality learning in an environment that they can feel safe, respected, and valued the way that I did. However, this pursuit has required much navigation, maneuvering, additional resources, hours and hours of advocacy and research in a system that I've learned hates my children. A system that believed that only those who are born to affluence or white should have access. What it did not constitute was for me to be patient or compromise. Equal access to high quality education for my children. As parents, guardians, and caregivers of children in West Contra Costa County, you are here today because you too want the very best for your children. You want them to achieve academic prowess. You want them to be their very best, whatever that may be. You know that despite the environment they reside in, the community they live in, and what people think of them, they are a gift and worthy of the very best that life can offer. If you are a caregiver or parent who is Black, Indigenous, Latinx, you often find yourself encountering other obstacles like racism and discrimination, or supporting your children as they experience this in school, on the playground, in the grocery store, in the mall, and other places. And I'll just say, even in their own home. some at the hands of other students, even some that look like them, and some at the hands of adults who proclaim to care for your children. As an adult, I now understand the incredible journey and invaluable experiences I had as a student in an inner city school, in a drug-ridden community in Brownsville projects in Brooklyn, New York. I recall my moments with my grandfather, the one who walked me to school in the mornings and taught me about my African history. For you see, my mother was a single parent. She worked 2 jobs. And so she had support by the support of my grandparents to ensure that I attained the very best. I recall his words of wisdom. For my grandfather said to me, Fatima, they can take anything away from you, but they can never take away your education. Now, as a 5-year-old, as a child, what was that supposed to mean to me? I had 2 pigtails, hair full of Vaseline, and I was enrolled in school. What was that supposed to mean, Grandpa? I didn't know. I was enrolled in school. I was accessing my education, right? For you see, although I lived in one of the most crime and drug infested communities in Brooklyn, New York, in 1985, I never felt deprived of anything. My teachers inspired me. They motivated me. They challenged me. They did all this because they knew I had potential. They believed I could achieve anything. They believed I was worthy. So if I was lacking knowledge, intellectual astuteness, I never felt that I could not overcome such. My school, again, in the inner city of Brownsville, New York, had a pool. So elementary school age Black and brown children in the inner city were given opportunities to learn how to swim. We were exposed to advanced vocabulary words by annual offerings of spelling bees. Yes, Black and brown children can develop an advanced vocabulary. We learned how to type on these large, bulky, rectangular devices called computers. Yes, these inner city children in Brooklyn, New York had access to technology in 1985. We were afforded the opportunity to participate in annual science fairs. Yes, Black and brown children could pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, AKA STEM, and become scientists and engineers. Now, let me tell you, these were not Black and brown students from affluent homes with plentiful resources. Within my school, there were Black and brown children who came from homes that people would say are dysfunctional. Some of my classmates were system impacted, even in elementary school. Some were foster children. Some were from single parent homes like me. Some lived in homes with parents and guardians who were addicted to drugs. Some lived in homes with parents who prepared crack cocaine. Some lived in homes with parents or guardians who sold drugs in the neighborhood. In fact, they sold drugs to their classmates' parents and relatives. Some lived in homes with parents or guardians who committed crimes, some as violent as murder. There were some who lived in homes with people impacted by our system. Some came from families with limited resources. There were some whose relatives rotated in and out of jail because they knew they would be fed there. They would have a bed. They didn't have access to jobs. There were some homes where no one was gainfully employed. There were some homes where no one attended college or graduated from college. In fact, many barely graduated from high school. Some resided in homes with their grandparents or other relatives because the system removed them from their homes they occupied with their parents due to abuse. Some of them were molested. And some of them lived in homes with parents and guardians who pursued a viable trade and or higher education and was able to provide them reasonable living accommodations and food. Some lived in homes with hardworking parents and guardians who did everything possible, despite the circumstances, to provide their children a better life. Some lived in homes with people who believed that education was a pathway to success. Regardless of our home life, school was a place where the students felt welcomed and a sense of belonging. Here we laughed, we cried, we dreamed of a world where we were teachers, police officers, doctors. We were able to have these experiences and believe that we can achieve what the American culture believes is success because we had teachers, we had principals, we had custodians and coaches who believed in us. They believed that we were individuals who were more than our surroundings, that were more than just a line item in a budget. They believed that we were bigger than our challenges or circumstances. They believed that our parents and guardians were not the problem for our failure or the cause of our failures. Our school community, teachers, principal, custodians, coaches, truly believed that we, these little Black, brown children, could be great. They believed we could excel. They wanted us to be better than them. They wanted us to be better than we even thought of ourselves. How do I know this? Well, they told us and they showed us. I want to note, because it's important, that while my principal was Black, as well as many other employees, most of our teachers were white. They were white people who lived in the suburbs and drove into a crime-ridden inner city community to educate, motivate, and inspire Black and brown students who many believed and still believe are disposable and unworthy. These were educators, white educators, who did not blame our Black and brown parents for their children's lack of progress. These were white educators who supported and walked alongside Black and brown parents. I know this because they visited our homes. They called and engaged our parents and guardians along our journey. These educators did not blame Black and brown parents for their students' lack of academic achievement on exams. These were educators who approached learning as a process, a partnership, an authentic partnership between parents, guardians, students, teachers, and the principal. They understand the concept of a village raises a child. I would have similar experience in middle school. And I will share that my mother chose to send me to live with my aunt so I can obtain access to a higher quality education. So you see, inner city families have had to navigate and maneuver the educational system to ensure their children, predominantly Black and brown children, who the world again and this country has deemed over and over again are disposable and without value, have access to the very best, because our public education system is not equal. In my middle school, I had access to advanced math and science, experienced counselors, and the same social emotional environment I was exposed to in elementary school that allowed me to be successful. High school, though, would be the first time I would be exposed to diverse cultures beyond my white teachers. For you see, my primary educational experience prepared me for one of the most prestigious high schools in New York City. It prepared me for the specialized high school exam. I tested into and attended Brooklyn Technical High School, where I attended school with people from diverse backgrounds: white, Haitian, Jamaican, Guatemalan, Japanese, Chinese. I was exposed to a myriad of career pathways like journalism, architecture, bioscience, civil, electrical engineering, finance, industrial design, law and society, chemistry, physics, biology, media, math. I can go on and on. I had access to a plethora of sports, including things I didn't even know was a sport, like bowling. So you see, I was under the naive impression as a child that our educational system was designed to support all students, including the destitute, the poor, the Black, the Latinx, and Native American, the white, the Asian, the affluent. I was under the impression that all educators were committed to academic prowess. I was under the naive impression that all educators believe that education is a partnership all the time between parents, educators, students, and the principal, not just when they want us to sign a piece of paper to support them. I was under the naive impression that this country and our leaders believed in the absolute capabilities of all individuals and all can achieve. For you see, I believe that the oppressed could overcome. I was under the impression that we, the oppressed, were bigger than our circumstances. I possibly believe that we can pull ourselves by our bootstraps. However, my experiences as an adult, as an advocate in this community, has shown me and taught me better. Unfortunately, it has shown me why my grandfather ingrained these words into my psyche. Fatima, they can take anything away from you, but they can never take away your education. For you see, moving to California from New York showed me the inequities and the inequalities in our public education system. It depends where you live, it depends how much money you have, and it depends on our election system. People told me not to move to Richmond because West Contra Costa Unified School District is one of the most underperforming school districts. I couldn't understand. So I moved here and I invested in this community. I invested financially, I invested emotionally, I invested my time. I leveraged my expertise as an engineer. What I didn't realize, and I guess I couldn't understand, was that why didn't people believe that my children would have access to high quality education here? For you see, I had a daughter and I had a son, and I was pregnant with another son. What I did not realize was that my experience in public education was unique, and each community functions differently. I did not understand that public education in the state of California is a $100 billion industry. If I would have known that, I would have better understood the politicization of public education. I did not realize the influence of special interest groups in terms of the decision-making of this $100 billion industry. While this is a substantial amount of money, this money also produces greed and corruption. It creates the disparities to ensure that the haves continue to have and the have-nots continue to have not. My experiences as a parent whose children attend the schools in Albany and Richmond tells me so. So me, now as a parent of 4, a queen and three kids, three kings, had to learn, like my mother, how to navigate the public education system. It was now my responsibility to provide them with the best high quality educational experiences in an environment that provided safety, treated them with respect, hired teachers who believed in them, were willing to partner with me to provide them the best, and were willing to hold themselves accountable for my child's success. It had to be a place that would challenge my children who are advanced. What it did not require me to do was wait or to compromise high quality education or the social emotional environment that my children needed. What I learned throughout this process, and as I had more children, I told you I had four, that all my children are unique. That means the environment that they are in had to be unique. It had to be the right environment for them. And it had to have, they needed to, I wouldn't compromise the respect, the safety, the high quality for my children. There is no compromise and there is no time to wait. For you see, my parents experienced this. My mother experienced this. So this is 4 decades of me, of my people, Black people, waiting for the system to do its job and educate Black students, poor students from poor homes, the homes that they deprived of resources. There is no more time for wait. There's no more time to be patient. It is time for us, regardless if you're Black, like me, if you're Latinx, if you're affluent, if you're white, you're Asian. There is no time for us to wait for my neighbor, our neighbor, your neighbor, to have access to quality public education. The time is now, because each and every child, whether it's a small school, a comprehensive school, should have access to the very best because they deserve it. And I want to note, before I open it up, that the reason why I describe the circumstances in the way that I do is because it's not a description of the individual. It's a description of, or an action of this, it's a depiction of the circumstance that they in. Because once we change the circumstance, it still doesn't define who they are. They are all capable. They all have the ability. And we need to provide the resources that they need to be successful. And what we need to do in our public education system is to stop blaming parents for the failure of our public education system to provide all our students. So my last words to you parents and guardians: remember, they can take anything away from you, but they can never take away your education. Ingrain that in your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. We're giving you a round of applause. It is the truest of things as we journey in this road, what stays with us through thick and through thin. Thank you for starting to light the fire of what we're going to talk about over the next 8 days. We have just about 5 minutes, so time for a question or two. So if someone has a question, they can raise their hand and then we can see if we can get through one or two of them. Ursula?
Hi, my name is Ursula. I have 2 kids at Kensington Hilltop, and I have the education, the background, the resources, everything someone could possibly want, yet I struggle to get the resources to support my kids with invisible disabilities in learning. And I hear you speak, and I am not facing those challenges of neighborhood, stable family, or income. Yet I sit at tables and I know that I cannot trust some of the people who are telling me what will be best for my child. I suppose that's not a question, unless the question is why, and how can other families, children be expected to succeed if I, with a Harvard degree in education, am at the table fighting for people to look past what they see and past their assumptions of my brown, bilingual, atypical, neuroatypical children. That's all.
Ursula, I want to thank you. So what I did not mention, because I wanted to allow time for people to ask questions, is that with my PhD in engineering from UC Berkeley, I sit at the same table with the same problem as you do. I have a student, a child with a disability, again, invisible disability, and I too have the same challenge. So I want to tell you, you're not alone. What I can tell you is that we must collectively advocate against the system that discriminates against students with disabilities. We must call this out. The challenge is that we're so isolated that we're not in spaces where we can collectively advocate, because we know that our students with disabilities are not adequately served. And it takes lawsuits. What I don't understand is that schools will prefer to be sued before they provide you with access. And I will tell you, because I sat on the other side as an elected official. So what I see is that our system responds to lawsuits and not proactive action. They need to be forced to do what's right. And that's an unfortunate place to be for us. You can feel free to reach out to me and we can have this conversation, and I can try to help you the best I can and navigate the special education system as I continue to navigate the system as well. Do we have time for one more right quick before we transition?
I actually need to wrap us up, Dr. Allen. I am sorry to cut us short. We have a couple more housekeeping things before we end on time. So thank you so much for your passion, for your wisdom. We look forward to seeing you in a few minutes on our next panel that you will be facilitating. Just so folks know, our next panel is a candid conversation about the African American student experience in our schools. We're going to put the Zoom link in the chat right now. You also can find it in the same places you found this link, on the website and the Whova app. And so we invite you to join